Hi, my name is Jenny Crones, and I'm the coordinator of tutoring services at Heartland Community College. Today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about GoToMeeting. It is an online app that we're piloting for online tutoring at this time. To get to GoToMeeting, you simply would go to a browser and use GoToMeeting in the search tool. Now, our tutors, as they're starting a tutoring session, they would sign in to GoToMeeting. And then they would start a meeting. It would be up to the tutor to send a link to the student in advance of the session so that they would be able to access the online tutoring session. Now, when you first are using GoToMeeting, there is a launcher that does run, and that just takes about a minute or less just to open up GoToMeeting and then also to make sure that your microphone and speakers are working. You also can obviously test out your webcam as well. So as you can see here, my audio is working. We'll click OK. A student would receive an email from a tutor that included a link that they could follow to get to the GoToMeeting tutoring session. So I'm going to click this here. We'll see what happens on the student side. And again, it would be up to the student to test out their microphone and speakers to make sure they work. Before they enter the session, they would include their name and enter the session. GoToMeeting is fairly easy to use. We do have a training program for our tutors so that they are able to learn the tools within GoToMeeting. There is the ability to share webcams, there's the ability to share screens, and there's also the ability to share audio. So a student could talk over the mic with a tutor, or a student could still choose to talk in chat and text with a tutor. So it's pretty versatile. As you can see here, I'm sharing the screen for a section 2.2 in a developmental math class, and the tutor and the student could also share control. So if the student had trouble even using their online platform and the tutor had some familiarity with MyLabs Plus or Blackboard, they actually could help model to the student how to navigate the software so that they might be able to be familiar with things like question help or other aspects of the online environment they're learning within. GoToMeeting can be used on a laptop or other mobile devices, but it is recommended to use it on something with a larger screen because, when you're sharing screens and you're also sharing webcams, you might have difficulty viewing what you're sharing if the screen is very small. So for full functionality, it's recommended to use, a desktop. However, GoToMeeting can be run on a tablet device. As you can see, there are pricing options for GoToMeeting. This is actually, their pricing website. There is a free option, and then obviously the cost increases depending on, the need that you have. Currently, the setup we're using is, a one-to-one ratio. We have access to one license, so we can tutor one student at a time. We're using a license that, was shared with us by the IT department. So it just so happens that we have GoToMeeting licenses on campus so we're able to use, and we're piloting with this resource because it's available to us on campus. So up next, you're going to see a mock tutoring session, what that would look like when we're helping a student using GoToMeeting.
I have my homework pulled up here and I'm sharing my screen with you, but this is a problem I've been working on quite a bit, and I think I'm just forgetting something because I just keep getting an incorrect answer.
Okay, well, sure, I'm more than glad to help, Jenny. And the problem that you have up here looks really complicated, but it really isn't. Before we get into the problem itself, I'm going to show you a resource in MyLabs Plus that you can use to help you, when you look at this and you just say, I have no idea how to attack this problem. If we go over to Question Help here and click on it, you will see Help Me Solve This and View an Example. And I would strongly encourage you to use View an Example, because if you help me solve it, somebody is actually doing some of the thinking for you, and it's better that you kind of view the example and get the whole sense of the process yourself. So if you click on View an Example, you're going to see a problem that looks very similar to what you have here. Click the Continue, and you can see that it's starting to work you through the problem. So you see you evaluate the 6 divided by 3, and then you evaluate the 1 to the 5th power. And go ahead and click Continue. And now it looks a little bit nicer. So go ahead and click Continue. And so you divide, and anything, 1 divided into anything is always the number, right?
Exactly.
So,
Okay. So that exponent on the bottom is just intimidating, but it really is kind of innocent. It's just ends up.
that's right. That's right. It looks really complicated, but if you remember, 1 raised to any power is still 1.
Okay, I think that's where I was getting tripped up.
Okay, well, why don't you go ahead and close that, and now we can go ahead and take on the problem that you have. So the first thing you want to do, what was the View an Example suggestion?
It was to divide, but in this case there aren't any numbers to divide, but there is that exponent there.
Oh, whoa, back up, back up. Look at that numerator. 7 plus 8 divided by
I think I need a
2,
magnet.
correct? Or are you seeing that correctly? Or
That is a division symbol. It's pretty small.
yeah, it is. It is. And that's, you have to kind of be on your toes.
Okay. All right, so that would be 7 plus 4 over 1.
Mhm.
This is what I got now.
Yeah, and so anything over 1 is, dividing 1 into a number is always that number, correct? So what is the result of 7 plus 4?
11.
Right, so you have 11 over 1 raised to the 7th power. So what is 1 raised to the 7th power?
It's 1. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are we left with?
It looks like the answer would be 11. I think I just was maybe overcomplicating it a little bit.
Yep. Why don't we go ahead and check the answer? Woohoo! Nice work. All right. So does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. I think I just forgot some of the rules for simplifying fractions. But speaking of that, that makes me think I might need help memorizing some of these tips, and I was wondering if you had any good resources to share that you could tell me about, or maybe even show me.
This is a source of a lot of videos.
A video might be kind of cool because I could pause it and rewind it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I'll go ahead and just put in pre-algebra here and just do this is just a basic search, and so you can see it brings up a lot of videos. As I said, lots of times you can just go through here and sample different ones and see which instructor makes sense to you, and then you can watch those instructors' videos, as you move through the course.
So you got to see a little bit of an idea of what an online tutoring session would look like. To tell you a little bit more about how we're using GoToMeeting, we're using it as a way to provide tutoring online for students. So if a student is taking an online class and has difficulty making it to campus because sometimes they might not actually even live in Bloomington Normal, we'd be able to provide tutoring to those students. We also are thinking about that student that might have a complex complex schedule. So providing online tutoring would allow for them to receive tutoring support from the comfort of their own home. One of the ways GoToMeeting allows for us to enhance the online tutoring session is because we're able to share so much with the student. We're able to share screens, we're able to share webcams, and also we're able to share control with the student. So, just like we'd be modeling things to a student during a tutoring session, in a lot of senses, we are able to model behaviors to a student in an online tutoring session because of the ability to do things like sharing screens. As far as motivating learners, I think that GoToMeeting is something that some of our students are going to be comfortable using because many of our students are going to technology resources to learn. So in a lot of senses, GoToMeeting is meeting that student where they are, and if they're really engaged and motivated by technology, then GoToMeeting really might be a great opportunity for a student that we may never get to see in the regular tutoring services area. Um, it could be a really good opportunity for that student to receive the support that they need. Because GoToMeeting has a lot of flexibility in an online tutoring session, we're able to do things very similarly to how we would do them in a regular tutoring session. So when it comes down to really determining if a student can show us what they know, because of, again, that ability to share screens, we can actually see a student demonstrate right in front of us how to go through the steps, how to solve the problem. Because we're able to share audio or share text in the chat, we also can use questioning techniques just like we would use in a regular tutoring session to make sure that the student is thinking critically about what they're doing and they're able to summarize the steps they went through to solve the problem. So GoToMeeting has impacted tutoring services in now that we can offer, another form of tutoring support to our students. And, sometimes we do have that student that comes in the door that has a complex schedule and, they're not available during the times that we're open. Or a student that sometimes doesn't live in Bloomington Normal and it's just difficult for them to make it to the Normal campus to receive tutoring. So GoToMeeting, has offered us another opportunity to try to work with those students. The pilot we're currently in is offering online tutoring to 4 classes on campus. So we look forward to continuing to expand our pilot and offering these services to more and more of our students. But it's always in our back pocket. So even though the pilot is maybe for just 4 classes right now so that we can kind of, keep it under our control, at the same time, when we do have a student that we just can't seem to place with a tutor, we do have GoToMeeting in our back pocket so that we still can try to provide tutoring support. Another suggested use for using GoToMeeting would be for providing training. So when we first started thinking about online tutoring, we have to have training so that our tutors know how to use the online tutoring resources in GoToMeeting. Now, one of the first things we thought of was using GoToMeeting to do that training so that our tutors could get practice working with other tutors to kind of simulate what a tutoring session would look like, but then also too, they can try to get that training at a time that really fits their schedule rather than trying to juggle everybody's schedule at once and meet at the same time. Another suggested use for GoToMeeting would be to complete interviews when an interview needs to take place in 2 separate locations. So we do have satellite campuses in Lincoln and Pontiac, and we had worked on hiring a tutor last semester for Pontiac, and because of his schedule, my schedule, and the fact that we really needed to try to get him interviewed sooner rather than later to support our students, using GoToMeeting to complete that interview allowed for us to, get an interview accomplished very quickly without either one of us having to drive half an hour away and, shift our schedule around too much. The strengths of GoToMeeting, I know I've mentioned several times, is we really get to share a lot back and forth with the student. Shared screens, shared webcam, shared control. That is really nice in an online setting when we're trying to work with students. The only weaknesses we've run into with GoToMeeting is when we're trying to create complex equations live. You really take for granted when you're working with a student, you can have a pencil in hand and a scratch piece of paper, and you can just kind of create examples on the fly. In an online environment that's a little bit more complex, and with GoToMeeting we haven't found a really easy way to do that yet. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know if you have any questions or suggestions about GoToMeeting or online tutoring pilot. I would love to hear any ideas you guys had, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of this Technology Expo. You guys have a great day.